Wonderful. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Just move my chat box out of the way. Let's move, oops, sorry. Grab that thing there. There we are, move that down out of the way. Click on that, put that back where it was. There we go. Right, as Anna said, I've actually switched over to the pound CAD for a particular reason, not least of all because it's another classic example of the awareness of what happens at the London Open at these crossover points in the sessions, whether it's from Europe into London or whether it's from London into the US session, or indeed into the Far East. So we've got pound CAD here. I've got multiple time frames, got 15-second, 1 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute, 10 minute, and over on the right-hand side, the daily. I'll just talk about that in a moment. I mean, what you can see at the moment right now is that this particular move this is on 5 minute CSI, by the way, on the left-hand side. This is 8 o'clock. This is one of the beauties of NinjaTrader. It tells you precisely in your local time, what is going on. So it's very easy to pick off what's going on immediately around your time frame, rather than on MT5 where you're always looking back a couple of hours and moving forward and so on and so forth. So this was the approach to London. We had this very nice move to the downside. The London markets then open, and what do we see? We see strong pound buying. Now, funnily enough, this is not the strongest trend. And what's actually driving this right now is the strength of the pound buying. You can see here on the CSI, what gives you a sense of strength in that particular currency or weakness in that particular currency is the steepness of the line. And what you see right here right now is that, yes, there is very strong pound buying, but in terms of Canadian selling, it's pretty weak right now. In fact, it's, we're up into overbought, yes, for sure. But there's no, the strength of selling in the counter currency is not as strong as the buying in the pound. And you can start to see that immediately. And hence the reason I say, if I was looking at this as a trading opportunity, this is not the one I would be looking at, for the simple reason that all that is driving this reversal here is twofold. First of all, because we've come into a session crossover. And secondly, because the Canadian has not reacted in the opposite direction. In other words, it is still staying strong, it is still being bought. And the only reason we are seeing this reaction is purely because of the strength of buying in the pound, which looks as though it's now weakening a bit. Now, the other reason I pull this chart up is to really highlight something else, which maybe you've not thought about before. Those of you who know me well and come along regularly will know I have a bias to the short side. It's something that, ironically, in the forex market, is ideally suited to that particular bias. Because what it means is that wherever I find a currency that is being bought, if I actually want to trade that currency, I can almost invariably find a pair where I can sell it. So in other words, if the Canadian is being bought, I wouldn't personally be looking to buy the Canadian dollar against the yen or against another currency. What I would be looking for is to actually trade that to the short side, where it is actually the counter currency, hence the reason for something looking at a currency pair like the pound CAD. So whilst other traders may be looking at buying the Canadian, I'm actually looking at it from the inverse perspective of selling a currency against it. So I'm selling the pound CAD. So I've got my nice trade to the downside, which is what I like, because generally speaking, markets fall much faster than they ever rise. It's a truism which holds good for most of the time. Yes, you do see roaring markets going up, but generally speaking, and there is a reason for it, and we explain in full detail in the program, generally speaking, markets will fall much quicker than they ever rise. As Anna said, I think she used the term labored. A lot of the time you will see trends rising, and they are a bit labored. Whereas when you see these reversals, these price waterfalls, that's what I'm looking for constantly. And hence the reason in the forex market, you've almost always got that opportunity. Now, one of the pairs you don't have that opportunity in is obviously in the yen pairs, where the yen is always the counter currency. But there is a way around that, where you go to the futures market, because in the futures market, the currencies are always quoted against the dollar. So whereas in the spot market, it's dollar yen, in the futures market, it's yen dollar. So you've always got that opportunity, and it's perhaps something you never thought about. Perhaps like me, you have a bias of trading to the short side. If you do, that's the way to look at it. You can look at the find currency pairs where that particular opportunity is available. So that's what we're seeing at the moment. It was a fairly weak rally. The strength in the Canadian, continues to remain. What we've had on 5 minute, see where we are. We've had a volatility trigger to the downside, lots of volume coming in, as you would expect at 8 o'clock. We get a heap of volume coming in. And what's interesting about this particular phase of price actions through here, just these 4 candles and 4 volume bars, is we see the first one come in, which is fine. That's the start of the London Open. We get a volatility trigger, okay, and we note the volume. It's not that much higher than the European session, which is through here, sorry, from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock through here. So it's not hugely higher. Then you get the next candle, and you see this big surge in volume. So you haven't got twice the amount of volume, but certainly getting on for 1.5, 1.75 times volume, and actually some narrower spread price action. So just on its own, it's giving you a sense that yes, you're seeing a huge amount of effort gone in here. And if you compare it, and remember, we are comparing like with like, so we can't hop over into here, but we're comparing this one with this one. Very small piece of price action, but we always have to compare like with like. When you're comparing this with this, you would wonder why perhaps this candle didn't, or this volume bar didn't appear here. And in fact, it's appeared 5 minutes into the session between 8:05 and 8:10. Big surge in volume. The spread of the candle is narrower than this one because all things being equal, what we're always looking for is we are looking for confirmation or we're looking for anomaly. In other words, is price and volume in agreement or is it in disagreement? And that's really the basis in a nutshell of what volume price analysis is all about. We're constantly looking at comparative values of volume and price and whether they stack up or whether we've got anomaly. And this is anomalous in the sense that we've got a lot of volume going in, and if we judge it against this first candle, and there's no reason not to, then we would expect this candle to be certainly taller than this one, up here somewhere, because if you use this as your benchmark and say, well, this amount of volume has given this amount of price action, this amount of volume should give that amount of price action. It's a very simple way of looking at things, but that is the basis of how we deploy volume price analysis, one of the many. This is a very simple example. So wherever you are in the session, you can always compare, but do remember that you cannot cross over. We can't compare this volume with something over here, for example. We can certainly compare, volume through here. This is 3 o'clock, this is 2 o'clock in the morning, our time, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. So we can compare all these. You can start to see the weakness coming in here. We had some weakness here. It's still, and this is what I mean about, trends moving higher. It's very labored. It's hard work. Then we get a further signal of weakness here. On we go. Then the volume drops away down here. There's a real effort to rally. It's getting very thin. Then we start to see it, and then we start to move into the European session. In here, we start to see a pickup in volume. Here's what we expect to see as we move into Europe. We've got an hour here of Europe price action with higher volumes, and now we're into London with higher volume still. What? Sorry, yes. You made a comment about how things move forward. Yeah. Can I just move over and then I'll come back to you? Yeah, sure. Literally. Yeah. I'll just switch off for a moment. Anna just wants to jump in. Hold on a minute.
I just wanted to jump in there. So David was saying about how why things markets fall a lot faster than they rise, and really the best way to see it is actually seeing at a chart. Now this was the Aussie yen move that we looked at in the screenshot that I was showing you. This is actually just on a planar chart with the camera with my Camarilla levels. These on the 10-minute chart. These are refreshed on a 24-hour basis, so they're not quite the same levels obviously that they were yesterday. But this is, as I said, this was that trend higher that we were looking in the Aussie yen. This is the start of the London session. The markets were going higher, but it is not an easy move to deal with. And I have found the Renko version of that move off the MT5 platform, and you can see the number of pullbacks, you know, the change of a trend dot into grey. This had actually went into red. This it didn't go into bright red, it went to the to a dark red, so it was still saying, yeah, it's still moving higher. It did actually at one point you say, you know, this here and here would certainly be points where you would think this isn't going to go any higher, you know, come out as it were. But then it was it was reestablished. Certainly, once the it moved through this resistance here that's marked with these pivots, and so on it went, and etc. etc. But if you were watching the markets yesterday, you know that despite Globex going higher, the markets at the US Open, they took a bit of a swan dive. They just reversed completely, and you know, everyone thought, well, what's happening? Globex was going up nicely. Suddenly they reversed and then went into a sideways before almost at the close. They then went higher. But just to give you an idea of how quickly markets fall, so this was the grind higher, and suddenly at the US Open, the indices did actually, you know, come off quite sharply. Bang, 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 bang. That's how quickly they move when markets reverse. This was perhaps a little bit, it was particular to the US market, but it was just a lovely example of the grind higher, laboured higher, pullbacks, really, you know, horrible trend when you think about it, you know, compared to what we looked at on the EuroCAD, and then bang, 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 and then just sideways because the indices then went. So then we had a little bit more of a sell-off, not so much of a volume under that, but we were, you know, coming to 8 o'clock, and then it suddenly went out. And in fact, the Aussie yen has been quite volatile. For us, it would be the overnight session. In the Asia Pacific session, we've got volatility candles, a lot of buying coming under there, push up higher, a couple of what look like hanging men candle, nice trend lower, and now it looks like it's pushing higher again. Where's it going to go? Well, the R4 tells us is you know, trying to get to 76.18. That's how we use this particular indicator. Is it going to go through there? Well, the volume, we'll have to look at the volume. What it tends to happen with the R4, it gets there and it has a bit of a pause and a think, if you like, whether it's actually going to go higher. But I just wanted to show that to highlight what, you know, to demonstrate what David was saying, in the sense that how markets will fall a lot quicker than they rise. I'll push back to you. Is that okay?
Back with me. There we go. Right, back on the pound CAD, and just looking over on the CSI. This is on, what are we on here? We're on 5 minute, I think. Yeah, on the 5 minute CSI. As I said before, just a really nice example. Be aware of the session crossovers. You know, this is clearly a trap. Draw traders in, think the pound's going to be bought, bang, down we go again, and off we go. Lots of volatility triggers all over the place. We've got one on 10 minute here, decent volume under there, so you know, we know what's going on. But in terms of looking for trading opportunities, if you were looking to sell the pound right now, of course you can sell it against, obviously against the dollar, but it's not necessarily the one that, certainly not at the moment, I would choose, because you've got the euro rising very strongly. So if you wanted to sell the pound, it goes back to the point I was making earlier, then, you know, buying euro is at the moment the right trade to take. You could, you know, that's the one to look for, because you've got this very strong buying in the euro. I'll move over onto the multiple CSIs in a moment. But it just demonstrates, you know, picking the appropriate pair, and of course this will change. That selling of the pound, it will rotate through that particular matrix of the pound. At times it will be stronger in one pair, it'll be weaker in another, and then it will move into another pair, and you'll be stronger there and weaker in the one you were trading. This happens constantly, this rotational aspect of price behavior. But at the moment, you know, we're seeing the selling of the pound. We've got very strong buying of the euro. So without even looking at the chart, I can tell you that, you know, that is a strong trend. Nice buying of the euro, nice selling of the pound. So nice strong trend going on. There will be a trend developing on cable purely because the dollar is now starting to kick up. But at the time, a few minutes, 10 minutes or so ago, it wasn't. These two were moving, you know, in the same sort of direction. Now the dollar we're starting to see some buying in the dollar coming in. But in terms of the strength of trend, that is not going to be the strongest. The strongest is going to be in currency pairs with the Swiss franc, with the euro, with the pound, with the yen falling quite strongly. The Canadian is still staying up here and overbought. This is another facet of price behavior, is that currency pairs stay overbought and oversold much longer than you would think. And it's the reason why, if you're going to trade reversals, you have to be patient, because if you're not going to be waiting for this to ultimately develop. There will be selling coming in on the Canadian dollar at some point, but at the moment it's not there, and you've just got to be patient and wait. It means you have to set your stop loss much wider. You've got to wait for this buffering to go on around here, up and down, before the actual trend starts to develop. And that's the reason you have to figure out for yourself whether you're more comfortable trading trends, jumping on a trend that's already underway, perhaps where you've got crosses. You've got a cross of the Swiss franc against the pound, for example, and you've got crosses all over the place here. So do you jump on a trend that's already underway, or are you going to wait for, let's say, the CAD yen to reverse, which is fine, but you need patience and you need to set a wider stop loss. Simple as that. So there we go. That's what we're seeing at the moment. You can see the trend monitor. This is on 15 seconds, so pretty quick. It's already transitioned into bearish, bearish on 1, bearish on 3. We haven't really transitioned at all. We haven't moved at all on 5. We saw this little kick up on the open, but no change on the trend monitor, no change on the trend monitor on 10. So it's purely been, you know, reaction on the open, and now we're starting to see the pound selling continue. Over onto the pound CAD daily, which, you know, as always, you get for context. That's where we are in terms of context. It's really moving sideways, and actually the most interesting chart for pound is actually cable. Let me just hop over onto the majors matrix, where, if I can find it, currency pairs, where are we? There we are, that's the one I want. There we go. Right. So now we're looking at the majors in terms of pound, Aussie, euro up the top, and down at the bottom we've got dollar, New Zealand, and dollar Swiss. But the one I actually want to show you is the chart of the daily, because it is quite interesting at the moment. So let's just change this over to daily. They'll all change because they're all, this little symbol up here is an interval link. So all the other charts in that particular profile or workspace will change also. And what's interesting about cable right now is the weakness that is now appearing on this particular time frame. And the reason I say that is because we call these piano keys for obvious reasons. They look like the black and white keys on a keyboard. But if you overlay one on top of the other, then what you've actually got over it, if you put this on a 2-day time frame, what you would see is an effort to rally falling back. In other words, you'd have a little body here and a big wick to the upside. Same here. Again, the market tried to rally, fell back. So you've got an identical scenario here. This is a mini version, if you like, of these. It's sort of son of these two. It's, you know, it's an effort to rally, and you're seeing this all over the place. You know, effort to rally. You've got, you know, you've got some weakness here, because why? Well, we've got higher volume going into. We've got this one starting off, then the following day we get higher volume, but the market goes absolutely nowhere. And all throughout here, you're seeing weakness, effort to rally, effort to rally, effort to rally, effort to rally over 2 days, effort to rally over 2 days, effort to rally over 1 day. Decent volume yesterday as well. So it's not looking terribly strong as far as the longer term outlook for pound dollar. Obviously, a lot of it will be governed by what is going on in terms of dollar, whether, you know, the dollar selling is going to continue, or whether we're actually going to see some dollar buying coming into the market, which will obviously cause reversal in terms of the currency pairs in the majors. But I just wanted to highlight it because it's a, you know, whatever you're trading intraday, and of course in these days, you know, this is what we call nice two-way price action. You would have had a nice up move. I can't remember what spread of time frame this was over. I suspect from memory, I think it was through to the US session. I can't honestly remember off the top of my head, but that's what you're looking for in terms of intraday price action. But from an intraday trading perspective, always look at the daily chart. It will give you a heads up. You look at things like the opening and closing price, whether the price you're trading at currently is above or below, last night's close. Those sorts of things. Those are all key. They're all part of putting together the jigsaw puzzle of what is going on in terms of the chart and in terms of the intraday price action. We just hop over onto the currency strength multiples. Let's have a quick look there. Just call in there, see what's going on. These I've got on, this is on 1 minute. I've got the 5 minute, the 10 minute, and the 15 minute. And really this is always the starting point, and it's teasing apart where you are actually going to go and look for those trading opportunities. And you've got classic examples of where you wouldn't look right now. For example, in the euro and the Swiss franc. Euro and Swiss are rising together, so therefore there is no trade. There's no momentum driving that particular currency pair right now. Why? Because both currencies are rising at the same speed. They are both traveling in the same direction. It's like two trains. The analogy I always use is two trains. If you imagine two trains pulling out of a station at more or less the same speed, there's no differential speed between the two of them. One might be traveling slightly faster than the other, so you might get a minor trend developing, but it's certainly not going to be a trend with any momentum. And really that is the way you have to think about it. You're always looking at the CSI. The CSI reveals so much. It reveals when currency pairs are overbought and oversold. It reveals the strength of buying or selling in any particular currency. It gives you a straight heads up on where to go and tease out those opportunities and which ones to ignore. And also when currency pairs, or currencies rather, are moving in a sideways direction. At the moment, the Aussie is kind of sliding, the New Zealand is kind of sliding. It's not really going anywhere fast in terms of the 5 minute time frame at any rate. The yen, we've seen lots of selling of yen purely because, and that's really across the time frame. You can see it right the way out here over on the 15 minute. I'm just looking over on the right hand side. This is on the VIX. Let's just pull the VIX over, see where we are. So the VIX is still, we're still up in the 20s, but we've dropped a little bit. We're trading around 2022. So the sentiment towards the risk sentiment right now in the market. Let's go quick look at the US futures, see what's going on there. This is what we're seeing right now. Top line is 5 minute, bottom line is daily. It's still very bullish. The YM was a big move yesterday on the YM and also on the ES. That's carrying on this morning. You can see it here on the 5 minute. The markets are trying to rally. And perhaps what you don't appreciate is that, I've highlighted this before, is that the cash markets right now are asleep. They're not open. The US market is not open, and yet at 8 o'clock London time, we see a surge in volume on Globex for these particular contracts. And you may think that's self-evident, but I can assure you most traders are unaware of it, that despite the fact we are looking at a market, as I say, where the cash market, in other words, the physical exchange is not open, the US markets are asleep, everyone's still in bed there. It's early 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, and yet we are seeing surges in volume. And that's part of relational analysis. It just goes to the heart of understanding the fact that all markets are interrelated, whether they're trading electronically or whether they're trading cash. The whole business of the financial world is around the simple metric of risk on, risk off. In other words, money flow is either chasing higher risk for higher reward or lower risk, lower reward. It's as simple as that, and they are all interconnected. And it doesn't matter whether it's electronic, whether it's in spot, whether it's in cash, whether it's in ETFs, you name it, they're all interconnected, and that's what we're seeing right now. So in terms of what is going on right now, the VIX is starting to tick up a little bit. That's why the indices are starting to just tick lower a little bit. And you will see that reflected in the yen, no doubt. Let's go back onto the There we are. Right, there we are. It's a little bit, it's overextended. You're just starting to see it here tick up on 1. This is on the 1 minute. So you're just starting to see a little bit of buying of the yen coming in. And the point I made earlier about looking for extremes, my eye, as many of you know, you come along regularly, I'm always looking at the extremes. I'm looking for what's overbought, what's oversold. You know, is there an opportunity? Am I prepared to be patient? You can see that selling on the Canadian dollar has already started on 1 minute. It's just starting to be reflected on the 5 minute. It's quite a long way out from the 1 minute, obviously, but you're already seeing that there. Now, what's interesting at the moment is in terms of that opportunity, what you want to see is obviously the yen rising, because in terms of the trend on 1 minute, all that's driving it right now is the Canadian dollar, not the counter opposite of buying of the yen. So in terms of the trade there, yes, there will be a trend, but it won't be the strongest because the yen is not cooperating, if you like. It's not being bought. So until you start to see that being bought, then nothing much is going to happen on that trend, you know, and you just have to wait and be patient. It may well be the Canadian dollar gets down here, joins the yen. At the moment, you can see they're almost traveling in the same direction. So, you know, it's in congestion right now. If this rolls over and this doesn't, same applies. So you've got to tease out where it is you're going to look for opportunities. Am I going to look at extremes? Am I going to jump on trends underway? You know, we've got the Swiss franc here rising. We've got the euro rising. We've got the dollar starting to kick low. We've got the dollar starting to kick low. We've got a cross. So if we go back to the currency matrix, where are we? Majors matrix, there we go. And I changed this back to 5 minute. Sorry, I'm so used to doing different platforms. There we go. I'm on TradeStation like 24 hours a day at the moment. Let's just reload that. Sorry, it's a bit sluggish, my machine right now. Should just load up in a minute. An awful lot of data coming in. There we go. There we go. Okay, so what we're seeing right now, in terms of, let's have a look at euro dollar, for example. What have we got on euro dollar? Let's just reload that one. There we go. It loads up. Not playing ball at the moment. There we go. I'll leave that as it is. But that's why we've got that decent trend on euro dollar developing now. Try again. So much data here. There we go. And that's why we're seeing that decent trend there on euro dollar. We had a volatility trigger into the candle, and we're now pushing higher. Good volume under there. Trend monitor's transitioned. What we're also seeing here, I've got the tick speedometer loaded up under here as well. And what the tick speedometer does, it actually gives you a straight heads up in terms of the strength of participation. And what we want to see as momentum traders, if you will, is we want to see this between green and orange, which is exactly what we've got here. So this is trading along nicely. Lots of participation, volume's good, tick activity is high. You know, that's what you want to see. But that's the reason you're seeing it. You're seeing euro rising strongly and the dollar falling strongly. Equally, if we look at the Swiss franc, we've got buying of the Swiss franc, we've got selling of the dollar. So if I wanted to buy the Swiss franc, I'd be selling dollar Swiss. We've got a nice big volatility candle coming here. So what do we expect? Reversal into the spread of the candle, or a complete reversal. So we're either going to see congestion develop, or we're going to see a full-blown reversal away from that particular opportunity. And you know, no great surprise, the dollar, the Swiss franc, and also the euro up into overbought. Now, what we're seeing in terms of the CAD, I mentioned it a few minutes ago. I said we've got to wait for the CAD to start selling off. It is starting to sell off in 5, but the yen is still not cooperating. So in terms of trading a yen pair, you wouldn't be looking at that one. You'd be looking at something like the euro yen. Let's just go back to the other workspace. There we go. I'll just change this over to euro yen. Might take a few seconds to load. Sorry, I've got a ton of data coming in here. Just wait for that to come up.
Is it coming up?
Hopefully in a minute it will. Should come up. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's coming up now. There we go. Sorry, it's just very sluggish at the moment. I've got so much data here. And there we go. That is what we're seeing in terms of the euro yen. It's from 15-second, 1 minute, 3 minute, down onto the 5 minute, 10 minute, and over onto the daily. And it's all confirmed. Yes, we're seeing some transitional here, but remember this is 15-second, so it's what we expect to see. Over onto the 1 minute, trend monitor blue, trend monitor blue, trend monitor blue on 5, over onto 10, trend monitor blue. We had a volatility trigger in here, but we're carrying on higher, decent volume under that last candle. On up we go. Obviously, at this point, you might be slightly concerned about the fact that the euro is, strongly up into overbought. There's nothing to say it isn't going to continue higher in the slower time frames. And that's really, the how you do it. And then you're looking at all the other indicators. You're looking at, over onto the currency matrix. Let's go and see what's happening there. Multiple time frames. This is on 3, 5, 10, 15, so pretty much a comparable, time horizon. We're seeing the euro yen, getting up here pretty strong. Euro yen, if I isolate out on the yen, this is what you want to see, because if you're trading that particular pair and you're buying the euro, you want to see the fact that the yen is being sold pretty much universally, which it is. Ideally, you want to see these up here as well. If we isolate out on the slower time frame in terms of the yen. There we go. So that's what you're seeing. So in other words, what we're seeing is we are seeing universal selling of the yen at the moment, and then it's just a question of picking out which particular pair is moving. But as I pointed out, it's identifying that opportunity as to which currency is the best one to select, and therefore which pair is going to deliver the strongest trend for you. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to click that. Yep, just hand over to Anna for a moment.
Amazing. David has the he picked on the euro yen, and in fact I just wanted to highlight another factor with this particular pair, because bring in our CSI. I'm just using the 10-minute chart for this. And if we look at, let's look at the time chart. This is the start of trends. Congestion phases, as we say in the program, and as we said in the books, this is where trends are born. And in fact, markets spend an awful long time in congestion, consolidation, and these congestion phases could be accumulation phases, they could be distribution phases, they could be reaccumulation phases. But basically, they move sideways, and it's where, as we said, it's the point where the market is happily transacting, amongst itself. There is buying, there is selling, there is no firm desire to go one way or the other. There is no clear bias, and David and I never really understand why traders find congestion phases so they're very wary of them. They think, oh my goodness, so everyone wants to find a trend. Trends will develop, but they come from congestion phases. Now again, like trends, congestion phases, they're not all the same. Some will be, quite boring, if you like. They just, the price doesn't go very far. They're very tight ranges. Other congestion phases, they will have a lot of choppiness. There will be a lot of candles with wicks. There'll be volatility. They all have their unique characteristics, and as I explained earlier, we've kind of described them in terms of what we call C states, and you can it's all explained in the forex program. But the reason I want to highlight the euro yen, because we can see here that this congestion phase, we've had attempts to break away on good volume. We had a nice pull away there on high volume, very strong platform of support as we've got here. We've got the volume point of control, we've got the accumulation and distribution indicator here, and we've got another strong area of support down here at 124.93, something like that. Then we have the attempt to break higher, lots of volume underneath it, but the next one has got a volatility candle triggered. What that means is, yes, there is decent volume underneath it, but because that is outside of the average true range, price actually retreats to within the spread of the candle and back, if you like, into the congestion phase, and so it goes on. And in fact, it looks as though it is going to break to the downside. But we know if it's going to break to the downside, this is where support and resistance comes in. It's got to break through here. There's a reasonable amount of volume under there, but not huge compared with that one. And we've got a little bit of a wick in there, so we know there's buying there. But look at the next candle. The volume absolutely dies away. Small candle. We know that's not going to go much further. But we know also it's got to move higher. It's got to go through here and on decent volume. Now remember, this is 4 o'clock, so these volume bars are slightly distorted by what's happening here. We weren't around at 4 o'clock, but the CSI. What happened at 4 o'clock on the CSI? This is the 10-minute one. And we had a cross on the CSI just before 4 o'clock. Previous to that, whether you can see that, the lines are actually moving in the same direction. That tells us that we are in a congestion. But once we get a cross on the CSI, and by the way, there is an alert function on the CSI which you can activate, and it will. I've got this horrible klaxon that comes on a NinjaTrader. That tells me there is now some divergence possibly setting up, and in fact we did get a divergence set up, and up it goes. We have a little bit more congestion, but generally it moves higher. Then we come into the start of Europe again. Then we go into sideways again, and in fact it's, let me just pull up the if I can find the, where is it? There we are, that one. There we are, 6 o'clock here. What have we got here? Yes. Now it looks like the euro has reached a point where possibly it is going to roll over, and with the similarly with the yen. But look at the timestamp at about 6:30. They start to move generally in the same direction. So we know we've got a congestion phase coming up. So you can use the CSI in this way as well. That's my klaxon going off. I've got crosses all over the place. I have them setting up on the 10-minute chart. So that tells me I've got divergence on the different pairs, and it's alerting me there could be a trade, setting up after a congestion phase. So there we are. They move together in the same direction. Then we get the strong divergence again coming in just under after London. What have we got here? We move away. We've got here. There we are, and up it goes. The volume comes in at the same time. Now the next question we want to know is, where is this heading to? And this is where we look at the levels. It actually blasted through the R4, didn't actually pause there on a volatility candle, and we know where it's heading to. It's coming up to 125, 125.55, because that is the next target for this particular pair. And the lines are still moving high. The euro looks like it's still possibly going to roll over, but the yen is still falling quite heavily. So this is how you would look at, for you as a trader, if you've missed the trend that started back here in the depths of 4 o'clock late in Asia Pacific, what do? Well, it's fairly self-evident. You wait until you get a period of a congestion phase. You wait until is it actually going to reverse in the following the congestion, or is it going to break higher? And you catch the break higher. I don't know why traders have such a problem with joining trends, but once you know how to interpret the structure of a trend, just as you know how to interpret the structure of a chart, you can then have the confidence to join the move. And certainly if you have our indicators of the CSI, you're in trend. You will see the divergence, and away you go. You can take that trading opportunity. Sorry, that's what I wanted to say on that. I will pass back to David.
We like to have continuity here. Back on the euro again. Anna to me. There we go. On up we go, into overbought, still going, and the yen is still falling. So still a nice trend there. On up we go, trend monitor blue, cross the piece. Very nice, thank you very much. Nice, easy trend. There we go. We're going to have to wrap up and run because we've gone over time. So let me just highlight the various places where we live on the internet. This is where you'll find all the indicators at quantumtrading.com, MT4, NinjaTrader 7.8, and indicators for TradingView. Yes, TradeStation is coming. I can assure you we are living and breathing TradeStation 24/7 at the moment. It is on its way. TradeStation Global is 9.5 with interactive brokers. So if you have an interactive brokers account, you can hook it straight through to TradeStation, have all the advantages of trading with a deep discount brokerage and the advantage of trading with a fantastic charting platform like TradeStation. TradeStation Securities runs on version 10. We've got radar screen running. We've got all sorts of good stuff in there. The CSI running in radar screen, so it comes up with automatic overbought, oversold, crossing of indicators, all sorts of stuff in there on radar screen we've developed. That's why it's taken us so long to get to this point. But you know, it is a powerful platform, and it really is exciting stuff. So hopefully in the next few weeks we will have that up and running. We've had a few issues, but we've now sorted those out. Once we've finished on TradeStation, we're going to drop onto TradingView and really pull in all the other indicators that are not there at the moment. In other words, currency matrix, currency array, currency heat map. We couldn't develop them at the time purely because the Pine script did not have object drawing and line drawing. It does now, which means that we can develop those indicators and basically pull the full package across onto TradingView. If you are a full package customer on TradingView, in other words, you have the indicators missing, you will get those issued free of charge. It's just our way of saying thank you for investing in the indicators. The price of that particular package will then be aligned with MT4. So it's not a bad time to be investing in the TradingView package, I can assure you, because you will get all those other indicators free of charge, because the price, I can assure you, will go up, both in terms of the package itself and also on the education program, which is priced much lower, purely because the TradingView package doesn't have all the indicators right now. So it's a good time to buy. You'll find Anna over at annacooling.com, all the books there on Kindle and also in paperback versions, and all the analysis, links to other things. That's all there, the Facebook pages and everything else. This is where you'll find the forex program, the complete forex trading program. I know we've got some students here today, so good to have you here. It's at quantumtradingeducation.com. It is what it says. It's the complete forex trading program. It includes all the core modules, the 5 core modules: psychology, fundamental, relational, technical, and mechanics of trading. Then you've got all this stuff below, over 200 hours of video in there, and it's all backed up with the VPA Traders Room, which is up here, which I've got open at the moment, which is hosted by Anna and myself. We're always in there, so if you have questions, you'll be joining other fellow students and traders, and we're always in there every day to answer any questions you may have. And just post up news of what's going on in the daily trading session. So that's it. Thank you very much indeed for coming along today. I hope you've enjoyed it. We do appreciate it. We are back on Thursday afternoon at 5:15 UK time, 5:15 UK time for the futures session. So enjoy the rest of the trading day. Enjoy the rest of the trading week. If you're not back on Thursday, we will see you same time, same place here next Tuesday morning. Which is the day after bank holiday on Monday, I believe. So there we go. Thanks very much indeed. Very wet and windy here. Hope it's nicer where you are. So see you soon, and bye for now.